So today is Kayla on?
Yeah, she does.
Okay. Hey Kayla, once you introduce a new classmate for you, you might know this guy who wears strange hat there. Yeah. I don't think it's winter, so he wears hat is for his hair. So.
That's what I do.
That's what you do. You do nothing. Just mess it up.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Kayla, pray for us. Want you to pray. Good to have you today.
Good to be here. Father, I thank you for today. Lord, I thank you that we all get to be here together. I thank you that we get to have a special guest with us, and I pray that you would bless this day. I pray that you would help our learning go smoothly, and I thank you, Father, for Emmanuel, who is coming here to teach us and taking time out of his day. And I thank you that you have given us school to learn and get smarter. Amen.
Thank you. So in 21 chapter, 20 to 26 chapter, this book scattered everywhere can be, but there are some major things, major events we discovered of American Revolution, American Constitution, two events major there, and then on the other side, European history was, they also talk about colonization as main thing going on, but the European is the French Revolution. So that's something very important in modern history, not modern history, but the recent history, So the founding of American as a nation is very important for you guys as American citizen. To know a lot of things going on in the world, you might want to know certain kind of British histories, but one of the major things, French Revolution, has been markedly a very important event in history. So, we study history, more than want to know the dates, something happened, want to know, overall picture, certain events has such impact, ripple effect, whatever, a long-term effect. So, American Revolution actually inspired French Revolution. French Revolution in turn inspired all other kind of revolution, not necessarily in the ideology that those people carried, like communist revolution. Those all actually is a ripple effect about that kind of revolution. So they all call themselves revolutions. Russia changed the old regime. China, through a painful birthing process, always has a revolution. Now, then, still going on, you can go through Latin America. There's people actually go different nations doing the Bolivar, right? So go to different nations. Bolivar become almost a nation, I think, name a nation, and to go to start revolutions. Now, Benjamin, what do you know about history? Have you learned history a little bit?
Yeah.
Yourself? Okay, your mom teaching you history?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what are history books you got carried?
Actually, we've had this one before, but we recently changed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so those for children. So.
Actually, we've had these books for a long time.
For a long
We've kind of been
time.
off and on these kind of
Okay,
books.
these people tell me to use this book. Okay, I didn't choose the book. So I had no options. So. Okay. But that's been good. I want to recap this for starting a new session. Now, let me first tell you what we do in terms reviewing. Every 5 chapter we're going to have a little bit text. Okay, so you can have different multiple option choices. No more test. A little bit of essay in the future when you write a little bit of essay. Then there are some fill in the blanks. So it's a 100 score. If you feel like last time, everybody miserably failed, so not anymore. So if you lower than 60, you fill the text. Okay, it's like an F for me. So if you make 70, it's like a D for me. Okay, you limit 80 is B for me. If you make 90, then it's A. Okay, so
Yep.
A plus would be good, am I? So A
Yep.
plus must be better. So okay,
200%.
yeah. What's that?
Would
What?
it be 200%?
Yeah, you can do. Yeah, you can do ties. So. Okay, so my teaching style is I like to lay out things so I don't struggle with my students about the communication, about the things, simple matters. So I want you guys to be, relax as much as we have fun together, but we don't struggle with things non-essential. Am I right? So pay attention to communication, pay attention to homework time. So I don't have a lot of time every day, so you guys' education important for me. I want to do a good job to review what you're doing. If you're not interested in doing that accordingly, then I will lose interest in really doing that with you. Okay, so I don't have the time to really wrestle with uninterested students, right? So this class is a volunteer thing, and based on more than just learning a subject. I want you to really use it as a discipline, to learn some discipline, learn something that Noah and Elijah has been talking about. Learn the way how to learn. Learn the way how to interact with one another. Learn the way how to respect your teacher, your elder. Learn maybe a different way of a culture or the way as common students these days they do it. Right? They do what they want. They go to school, do what they want. That's not going to be our culture here. We're going to have a respectful, intelligent, and encouraging culture. We're going to treat each other, not bickering, not just have a fun, rather have a good friendship, good constructive relationship going on. Build a culture for honor and help, am I right? So rather than, just, don't like to learn, right, to begin with, and disrespectful for the whole process, whole setup. That is something we want to eliminate. Okay, so making sense to you. So for example, if you talk to your mother and father in a certain way, when I see it as a teacher, I would say, no, I want to take issue with that. Okay, so, that's something more important for me than teaching a lesson in history. So you understand my point, so I hope you guys understand that is more important for you in life than merely learn a subject, right? So so I can encourage you endlessly about some skills, something you can do. But the best honor and respect you can have from me is how you carry yourself in a respectful way. That's more than towards me, towards everybody in your life. Okay? So not just be civil or polite, but really being godly, being wise, being righteous, and right? Being not just fair, but just, right? So carry with a sense of wisdom and understanding the essence and the vision of life that God should build in our lives. Anyway, so that sounds a lofty topic, but I think you understand the essence of what we're trying to do here. Okay, that being said, let's move on with some reading. I want Kayla today to take a lead for us. I not heard her voice for a while. We're going to start with chapter 26, Catherine the Great.
Okay.
Yeah. I read a book myself, Catherine the Great. A whole book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When I was young.
What's it called?
And
Princess
Peter the Great.
comes to Russia.
When I was young.
Princess Patty.
Yeah. Okay, so let's first look at the Russian map. So before we get into the text, you see the Russian is big, what? A big nation, right? Mm-hmm. So do you see Archangel there? Mm-hmm. We mentioned Archangel before. It's a port in the north. Peter the Great wanted to get hold, then finally it's winter time, it's locked up. So he said, no, let's get it under the one. He took over Azov, am I right? Around the Black Sea, am I right? Making sense to you?
Is that on the
map?
Yes.
On the map. So remember Peter the Great?
Mm-hmm.
The guy tried to be a seller, everything, it's very interesting character. Oh, he died, Esther.
Oh, okay. Wasn't he?
No, I know.
Yeah, you don't know?
Kidding. He said how did he die?
Oh, he
I thought
died.
you said-
How did who die?
Peter the Great.
Was he beheaded?
Yeah.
Ah.
He was beheaded, right?
Ah, that's interesting. Okay.
No?
Who knows how Peter the Great died?
He wasn't beheaded?
he died of a cold, man. So
Oh,
it's in the
smallpox?
Bible.
Oh yeah, he
Yeah,
was
he was
he was
told.
trying to swim to save someone.
Yeah, he was seeing
Oh,
somebody.
I guess I think of the wrong person.
Yeah, he got in the warm water and it then got a cold, died of cold.
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember that, huh? So, okay.
Would you like me to start reading?
Yes, please.
Okay. Princess Catherine comes to Russia. Over in Russia, the Empress Catherine the Great watched in horror as the king and I already can't pronounce that word.
Aristocrats. Aristocrats.
What? Aristocrats. Okay, sorry. Died by
The
Guillotine.
Guillotine.
guillotine. I'm so sorry. I'm already messing up.
No, it's okay.
Catherine the Great had come to the throne of Russia 30 years before. Like Peter the Great, who ruled before her, Catherine admired Western ideas. But she still was firmly convinced that the kings ruled because God gave them power. France, she told, one of her ministers was going to ruin. Catherine may have believed that God gave kings and empresses their power. But the empress herself had come to the throne by very human means. Catherine wasn't even a Russian. Her father had been the prince of a little German state, and her mother was Swedish. But her mother's cousin had married the daughter of the great Russian emperor, Peter the Great. And their son, Peter
Urich.
What?
Urich.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's difficult.
Urich?
Yeah.
Ulrich, oh my goodness, had been declared the
Heir.
The heir is somebody inherited the
Oh my
throne.
goodness, I'm so sorry. I cannot read very well.
That's okay. You're doing good. Just need to
Thank you.
give yourself some room. Yeah.
The Empress Elizabeth, Peter Urich's aunt, had seized the Russian throne years before. She thought that the young Catherine would be the perfect wife for her nephew. When Catherine was 15, the Empress sent a message to Germany, inviting the young princess to come and visit Russia. Catherine's mother, Johanna, was thrilled. If her daughter married future Khazar, she would be the mother of a queen. But Catherine's father shook his head in worry. You will have to become a member of the Russian Orthodox Church, he warned Catherine. We have always been followers of Martin Luther's teachings. You must promise me never to leave the church. Catherine promised.
Lutheran
She
church.
wasn't sure.
Lutheran. Martin Luther, Lutheran. So.
Yeah. She was sure she wanted to marry. She wasn't sure she wanted to marry Peter Urich anyway. Urich, sorry. She had met him once before when he was 10. And she remembered the odd and small white face, bad-tempered, full of strange twitches, and even though he was only 10, he drank so much wine at dinner
You
that
kidding
he had to
me?
be carried away from the table.
You kidding me? She is a grandson of Peter the Great.
I wonder if they were allowed to drink that back then.
Yep.
Yeah, they were.
I think at that age, maybe they weren't. He's just because he's a prince. Anyway, okay. Where was I? Okay, there we go. He had been unfriendly and rude to his servant, and seemed to want only to play with his toy soldiers. With one of his
Attendance.
Attendance.
Yeah, somebody attend your needs, something like a nanny, to a child. So. Mhm.
Okay. But Peter thought of a crown fascinating.
Fascinated.
Crown fascinated Catherine, and that Peter, like now, oh my goodness, and what was Peter like now? That he was older. Catherine was willing to go and see.
Okay, you can stop there.
So she packed.
We're gonna have somebody else to continue. Now, can somebody explain to me the word twitch means? Strange
It's
twitches.
kind of like there's some people who like kind of do
Oh,
weird twitching, like they have like a habit of twitching.
Oh,
Twitchy means
okay.
just kind of jittery and
Jittery.
and
I feel like some
immature.
people just like kind of.
Immature.
kind of a
childish ways.
Knack.
Okay, who want to continue the reading? After a very wonderful start.
Yeah, you did great, Kayla.
Yeah, so we're gonna hear Benji read it for us. I never heard Benji read. So.
So she packed her clothes and, with her mother, set off for Russia's capital city, St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg was almost 1,000 miles away, and their road lay through the coldest, bleakest part of Europe. They traveled for 6 weeks. The road disappeared under snow and ice and mud. They had to sleep at country inns where the guests piled together for warmth, while dogs and chickens nosed around the straw.
It's like our inn, huh?
Catherine's hands and
I'm
feet.
sorry to interrupt, but there is a noise in the background that I can't hear at all. Oh, it just stopped. Oh yeah, it keeps going back off and on, and I can't hear anything.
That is because Elaine is talking.
You
So.
think it's the computer noise?
Oh, that is my computer
Yeah, I
noise.
can't
Yeah,
hear
I don't know if
anything
that's
right
what
now.
might be causing it.
Sorry to interrupt.
No
But
worries.
But I can't help you. So
Yeah, I
the
don't know if we
computer
can-
is running on its own course. So
Uh-oh.
that's let's see what's going on.
I don't think it's the computer. I think it's the connection.
I don't think so. It's I don't think the computer really have. Sometimes they do have a problem, but this.
Because I don't think the computer fan would block the audio.
You don't think
Maybe,
so?
yeah, I don't
No,
know.
I don't. I don't think. I don't think
Yeah,
it.
I don't think so either. Something's doing something. So. Okay, can you hear me well?
No, I still can't really hear. It goes off and on. Like when I start talking, it goes off, but then once I stop, it goes back on again.
That's because your connection's bad, Kayla, unfortunately. It happened when connection's bad, so.
No, it's okay. I have my book here, so I'll just read that.
You might want to mute yourself. That might help you better, so. Push on the mute button. Unless you want to talk, then unmute yourself. Is that making sense to you? So, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. So, connection is bad. Sometimes frustrate us all the time. So, anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Catherine's hands and feet swelled from frostbite. But when the family finally arrived in St. Petersburg, they were welcomed with warm cloaks and celebration. The Empress.
Also, Benji, for the sake for others, you might want to read louder a little bit. Sorry for that. So,
No.
yeah.
The Empress' fur-lined sled was waiting to whisk them to Moscow, where Peter was waiting. Finally, Catherine arrived at the enormous candlelit mansion, where Peter stood in the front hall to welcome her. He was much taller and handsome than when she had seen him last, and he was delighted to see her. "I wish I could have harnessed myself to your sled so that you would have been here sooner," he exclaimed. But the more time Catherine spent with Peter, the less she liked him. He was rude to servants and courtiers.
Courtiers.
When he went to church, he made unpleasant noises and told loud jokes during the service. Even though he would rule Russia one day, he refused to speak Russian. Instead, he spoke German and Prussian. Prussian?
And told. Sorry, you missed the
Oh,
sentence.
yes.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, yeah, and told him. The Russians around him that he wished he could live in Prussia.
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 Prussia?
A German state that Russians hated, but everyone around her seemed to expect her to marry Peter. The Empress Elizabeth was a big, frightened woman who flew into terrifying rages at her servants.
Are you started laughing or something? Like that? You did?
I have issues.
Naomi has some laughing twitch.
Yes, that's Naomi.
That's
Yes,
Naomi.
I have a laughing twitch.
Okay, that's okay.
And Catherine was afraid to tell her that she didn't really like Peter. She tried to tell her mother, but Joanna was looking forward to becoming the mother-in-law of the Tsar. She scoffed at Catherine's doubts. Catherine's father would have agreed with her, but he was thousands miles away. Too afraid to refuse, Catherine agreed to convert to the Russian Orthodox Church and to be betrothed to Peter. The two went through a long, elaborate engagement ceremony. Catherine was given the title of Russian Grand Duchess. Suddenly, everyone had to kneel in front of her, call her Your Imperial Highness, and kiss her hand. For months after the engagement ceremony, Peter Ulrich came down with smallpox. Instantly, Catherine was whisked away to a distant palace so that she wouldn't catch the disease too. In those days, smallpox killed millions. Peter grew sicker and sicker. Smallpox sores covered his face and body. He wasn't expected to live, but he survived. When Catherine saw him again, she gasped in horror. His face was swollen. His skin was a mass of scars. He was barely recognizable. He had become hideous. Catherine wrote in her diary, "My blood ran cold as the sight of him." And just at the time, the Empress Elizabeth announced that it was time to set the date for the wedding.
Okay, you can stop there. Let's the girls read it for us. Go ahead. You don't know how to read anymore?
Nope.
No, she forgot.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Oh god. Where are we? Where are we? Right here. Was it in
After the date for the wedding.
Okay. Catherine dreaded the day of the ceremony, but she was afraid to break off her engagement. So the two were married. An enormous celebration that the Empress had planned for months. Ambassadors from all of Europe were there. The feasting went on for hours. Catherine was the wife of the future Tsar, and she was miserable. Peter didn't improve after
She
marriage.
was about 17 to 18 years old this time, am I right?
Wow.
So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, his behavior grew so strange that the Russian court whispered, "He's going mad." His scars covered a face that was always grimacing and twitching. He talked loudly in church, insulted visiting ambassadors, and giggled uncontrollably at serious occasions. He liked to pour wine on the heads of his servants and play with his wooden soldiers. He ignored his wife. Catherine had no friends, and her mother, Joanna, had returned home after the wedding. She spent 9 lonely years reading books of history and philosophy, books about military tactics, books about the emperors of Rome and their strategies of ruling their empire.
Can you believe that? She used to run out to go to the barricade to see soldiers how they practice of that.
That's funny.
Yeah, she actually commands soldiers to fight each other, to
Really?
put strategies. I think so. I don't quite recall what I read, but I remember she was very funny, very active. So,
Funny.
She gathered herself. We're a royal soldier these days. Saved her from some dangerous occasion. Made her the empress. Or the ruler. So, that's why I remembered. So go ahead.
She made friends with the army officers. She rode through the streets of St. Petersburg and heard the Russian people murmur about her beauty. Next to week.
Next week.
What does that say?
Spindly?
Spindly, repulsive Peter. Catherine looked like a true queen. Catherine's life at court grew lonelier and harder. Peter insulted her in public and threatened to send her to exile. When Catherine had her first baby, after being married to Peter for 9 years, the Empress Elizabeth took the baby as soon as it was born and swept it out of the room, commanding everyone to follow her. Catherine was left alone, exhausted and cold. No one ever brought her a drink of water for 3 hours. The Empress had decided to raise the future heir to the throne herself. She named the little boy Paul and put his cradle in her own room. Catherine didn't even see her baby for 6 weeks.
That's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
What a heartless people do that, huh? Well, she's not Christian for sure. Not a good one. So, sorry.
Catherine was furious, but lying in her bed, she began to think. The Empress Elizabeth was growing older and sicker. Peter was a fool and a madman. She was the mother to the heir of the throne, and she was a strong, intelligent woman. The Russian people liked her. The army respected her. When the Empress Elizabeth died, why shouldn't Catherine rule in the place of her bad-tempered, childish husband? When she was well again, Catherine began to make her plans. She reread her books about the Roman emperors and the ways they controlled their people. She spent hours talking to the Empress's officials. They were impressed by her intelligence and her understanding of affairs of state. Meanwhile, Peter drank more than ever. He staggered through the palace, screaming at the top of his lungs, beating his dogs and sometimes his servants in uncontrollable rages. The old empress began to grow weak. In December of 1761, 16 years after Catherine's wedding, she took to her bed. Soon she was unable to move. She summoned Peter to her bedside. Rule Russia well, she whispered. Be kind to the servants. Watch over your son. Her eyes closed. But she still breathed. The whole court waited for days while the old woman lay motionless. Finally, on Christmas Day, the Empress died. Peter
Ulrich? How do you say that?
I think called Urich.
Oh, Ulrich?
Yes.
Okay.
Peter Ulrich
It's a Russian thing, Russian Urich.
Yeah.
had become Tsar Peter III of Prussia. Catherine did nothing. She was expecting another baby, and she was too tired and weak to lead a revolt.
She was exiled, I believe, literally. Then restated by her loyalists. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
But she had waited 16 years in this cold, strange country. She could wait a little bit longer.
So the next portion, this whole chapter is devoted to this character,
To
okay?
Catherine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She has a great impact over Russian history. So
Throw away gum really quick.
what?
Yeah, I think that's it.
What? What do you need?
Gum. I can't read with gum.
Yeah, who told you to eat gum when you do the
She
classes?
forced me.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, it'd just be easier to read without it.
Nice notebook.
Thanks.
Draw another sword.
Draw
Always.
some cool little
He
drawings.
draws many swords,
Mine
man.
are,
So
mine's just boring. I just fill the page.
that's good notebook. This is a terrible notebook. I'm joking.
Yeah, I didn't bring my usual one.
Oh, that's very confusing. Look at that.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm the only one that has to understand it.
I mean,
I'm not complaining. I'm just commenting. So, Catherine the Great. Now Naomi can start with Catherine the Great.
Catherine the Great. The Empress Elizabeth's body was dressed in silver lace and golden crown, a golden crown, and taken to St. Petersburg.
Saint Peter.
Saint.
Like a saint.
I said Saint. Largest cathedral. For 6 weeks, services were held to mourn the Empress's death. By the end of the 6 weeks, the body smelled terrible.
You kidding me? I thought Russia is cold, have a lot of ice, you know. So
Body still rots.
smelled good. But Catherine pretended not to notice. She went to the cathedral every day. She wanted all of St. Petersburg to see how faithful and devoted she was. Meanwhile,
devout.
Devout, sorry.
Devout. Sorry.
Meanwhile, the new Tsar didn't even bother to weep. He threw huge feasts and told the court not to wear mourning clothes. When he visited the Empress's body in the cathedral, he told jokes and laughed loudly. Now that Peter was in charge of the army, he announced that the soldiers would have to become more like Prussian soldiers. Peter had always loved the Prussian army, but the Russian soldiers had fought against the Prussian armies for years and hated Prussians.
Yeah, they are in war, literally constant war. Each other.
Peter didn't care. He declared that the Russians would have to get rid of their uniforms and dress more like Prussian soldiers. He planned to teach them to march and fight like Prussians. The soldiers were indignant.
Yes. Basically, we're angry.
Many of them began to whisper that Catherine, who often visited them in their army barracks.
Oh, barricades.
Oh my gosh.
Barracks. Okay. Hope
Barricades?
you found
Barracks.
that thing.
I said
Barrack is like a little bit
Barracks.
castle, temporary setup with some little bit defense system, but the army stationed there for training for what purposes, so like
Yeah.
we call the fort today, so
A fort, yeah.
yeah, fort.
Would make a better ruler than her husband. By the time Catherine had her second baby, the army was almost ready to rebel against Peter. They hated their new uniforms and new Prussian customs. And Peter had just ordered them to do something loathsome. Wow. He needed money for the royal treasury, so he sent the army out to seize land owned by the Russian Orthodox Church.
Literally touch the untouchable, so Rus also church is enjoy such respect and commanding respect basically, so it may make it sense, so yeah.
He planned to sell this land and keep the money. Church leaders protested. The church had owned this land for hundreds of years, but Peter refused to listen. He ordered the soldiers to search Orthodox
Monasteries.
Monasteries.
What are
Is
those?
where monks stay, right? Monks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a castle somewhere. The monks live there for religious purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Live, what's the word? A devout life. Devout.
Devout.
Devoted.
Yeah, devout.
So how do you say it again? Monasteries?
Monastery. Exactly.
Monasteries?
That's exactly right. You just
Monasteries?
did that right. Yes.
Okay. So they were searching that for treasure, and even inside the monks' cells, and take everything that they took.
Now, you don't need to sympathize with the monks either. They were corrupted most of the time, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Many of his soldiers were devout Orthodox Christians.
Devout. Okay.
I always say it wrong. I'm sorry. They obeyed their czar, but they hated carrying out his commands. Meanwhile, Catherine was recovering from the birth of her baby. In just a few weeks, she attended her first public banquet. Hundreds of guests, army officers, ambassadors from France and Prussia, state ministers, sat along the tables, glittering with silverware and gold dishes. Peter sat on a raised dais?
Like a throne.
Dais.
He grew drunker, louder, and wilder.
The word
As
we
the night-
use, the dais, is like in the governmenting setting, right? The dais, sitting on the dais. So basically deciding seats. So.
Yeah. Kind of like at the front of the table, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Large.
Actually,
Head
I
of
don't
table.
know. Yeah.
What?
Mhm.
Head of the table, yeah.
Head of
Like
the table.
Dais.
Raised seat.
Mhm.
At the end of the banquet, Peter larged his feet and screamed at Catherine. Fool, idiot! If I want to, I can throw you in prison for the rest of your life. Peter had finally gone too far. The army loved Catherine and hated their czar. The word spread through the army. It was time to put the empress on throne. On the morning of June 28th, 1762, Catherine got up early and dressed like an empress. Peter was away from St. Petersburg, staying at another town. The soldiers planned to surround the town so that the Tsar could not send for help and proclaim Catherine empress. When Catherine was dressed, she went to the barracks of the soldiers of the soldiers and told them that she was afraid Peter would arrest her and send her into exile. Most of them knelt to kiss her hands. A few yelled, "Paul, Paul!" The Tsar would be replaced by his son, not by his wife. But the rest of the army followed Catherine through the streets of St. Petersburg, shouting, "Vilat, Vilat!" This meant, "Long live the new empress." Catherine went to the Cathedral of St. Petersburg and asked the head priest of Petersburg, the
Metropolitan.
metropolitan.
You know that word.
What does that mean?
It's in this light. It's different than modern meaning. Modern day meaning is like a city, right? So, a good city.
Okay.
But in those days, I think it's more the title for the head priest.
Okay.
Okay.
So the metropolitan. So she asked them to bless her.
That's a good question. I'm going to test you on that one.
The metropolitan hated what Peter had done to the Russian Orthodox Church. He prayed over Catherine and pronounced her empress. All over St. Petersburg, church bells rang. The people of St. Petersburg poured out of their houses to find out what was happening. Most were glad to hear that they were no longer ruled by the unpredictable savage Peter.
Savage Peter. Okay, let's stop and have others read for us. You really like reading. I like that, Naomi. So you read very good.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, we're gonna have you to read for us some other things. So let's have this young lady read for us, if she's still there.
I don't think she's there anymore.
Huh?
Oh, she is.
She is.
I'm here. I was just writing down notes. Sorry if somebody
That's
was
okay.
I have a lot of notes.
Okay. I'm gonna have you to read for us. Second person, the third person.
So sorry already. I have highlighted all the notes I need to take, so I'm a little behind where you guys are trying to get all the notes.
It's okay.
We're in Catherine the Great, the second part.
Page 200.
Page 255.
Might be different for hers.
255. No, I think it's the same book.
And what what paragraph?
We were on. In the meantime, is where we.
The second paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell the paragraph, not the sentence.
Okay. Let me find it. I can't.
Second paragraph. In the meantime.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Savage Peter.
Second paragraph on page 255.
Yes.
I don't see it. I don't see it in the.
Maybe.
What word do you have? Ask.
Maybe it's on page 296.
296. I'm on 255.
Check
I think she
296.
has the same one.
296 is not in this chapter.
Esther, it's not your book.
It's 255 at the top of the page, starting with "in the meantime."
Look for.
Oh, okay. I thought you said second paragraph, so I was not obviously looking.
Well, it is the second paragraph, but it's kind of
Okay,
at the
I found
top.
it. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
In the meantime, the Khazar found himself surrounded. He tried to rally the army to his side, but as the day went on, Peter saw that the soldiers were no longer loyal to him. He spent the whole night drinking. By morning, he realized that his throne was lost. He signed a paper agreeing to give up his throne and sent Catherine a letter. Let me leave Russia, the letter begged, and go live in Persia, a country I have always loved. But Catherine knew that if Peter went to Persia, he might be able to convince the Persians to invade Russia and help him take back the throne. So she ordered her allies to take Peter to one of his places and guard him there.
Palaces.
Mm-hmm.
Palaces, sorry. Just a week after Catherine became Empress of Russia, she received a scribble note from one of the officers who was watching over Peter. He is no longer in the world, the letter began. He started a
Quarrel with somebody. Mm-hmm.
quarrel
Mm-hmm.
with Prince Bartansky.
Beretansky.
No. Yeah, not Tansky. Somebody will
Not
say
Tansky.
Tansky. Britain, you see,
One of the noblemen.
you see, oh, you remember this word.
Over.
Britain, add B after B, add A to it. That's Britain, exactly, am I? So, the sky. So, Britain sky. A Britain sky. That's how you remember.
Do we have to remember that for the test?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm
No,
going to mark that.
for your memory skills. So.
Broadest sky?
Yeah.
Wait, how do you say
A Britain sky.
A British guy?
A Britain sky.
British sky?
A Britain sky.
British sky?
Yeah. It's hard to remember this word. Move the A behind the B. A Britain sky.
So it has a?
Yeah, if you break it down the word, think about it.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
breaking down the word. Making sense now, am I
Yes.
right? So, yeah. Try to teach you some skills for memorizing
British
things. A Britain sky.
British sky.
Do I
British
do I
spy.
continue?
British
British
spy?
sky?
Yeah, then you much easier,
British
right?
spy?
So, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I already forgot the last name. Somebody's already gonna have to.
It's okay.
We were just talking.
Yeah.
British
I
sky?
know. I
British
can't pronounce it.
Britansky.
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 Alright.
Prince
There it is.
Let's see it together. Britansky.
Britansky.
British guy.
Yeah.
Alright.
See, I told you nobody wanted to learn, so that's the truth.
He had
Hey, we're
lunch
learning.
with Prince Brahinsky
Mm-hmm.
at dinner. Before we could separate them, he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
The ex-Khazar has been murdered.
The word actually C does not pronounce. They're called Tsar. Tsar. The ex-Tsar. C does not pronounce. Again, sorry to correct you, but yeah, that's important to know the title for the Russian ruler.
His guards claimed that Peter had started a fight with, oh my goodness, Prince. Can't pronounce his name.
Britansky.
Britansky.
Yeah, do it 3 times loud, and you'll remember it.
Okay. One of the noblemen Catherine had sent to watch over him. One of the noblemen Catherine sent to watch over him. The two had struggled. An accidental blow had killed Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine issued a proclamation.
Proclamation.
Mm-hmm.
To the people.
Of St. Petersburg.
Okay, I'm gonna have to have somebody else start reading because my mom is texting me and she said that she needs me, so I will still be able to listen in. But I
Okay.
need to go and help her.
That's fine.
Sorry about that, but I am.
Mute your computer before you go, so you can then hear better.
Okay, we're at
Okay.
Petersburg.
Okay.
At the
Catherine.
bottom The bottom of the page.
Okay. Catherine issued a proclamation to the people of St. Petersburg, announcing that the emperor died suddenly of a stomach upset. That's a lie.
Yeah.
And
Stomach upset?
this is the will of God, the proclamation read. The body will lie in state so that the people can pay their respects. Thousands of people traveled to see Peter's body, but as they began to file by, loud gasps of horror rose into the air. Peter's face was purple. The body had a large caveat. What? Cravat. What's that word? Cravat. Cravat. I'm sorry, you don't have the book. Sorry, you're ruined.
A cravat, it's like I think it's like almost like a handkerchief, like a thing someone's wearing. Something wrapped around his neck. It's probably what he got strangled
Somebody
with.
must, yeah, wrapped around his throat so that no one could see it. The emperor and obviously being strangled. Strangled! The guard claimed that he died in a sudden fight. What had really happened? And Catherine ordered her husband killed. And she simply mentioned how good it would be if Peter were dead. So then her guards would act on her hint. No one knows. No one knew, I'm sorry. And Catherine never spoke her husband's death. Oh man, okay. As a sign, I need to stop reading. So, okay, afterward. But many Russians noticed that she did not punish anyone. Anybody want to continue now? It's your turn.
I'll do it, yeah.
Yeah, very good. Now read louder so we can hear better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now Catherine was Empress of all Russia. For the next 30 years, she would rule over adopted country with as much energy as Peter the Great himself. She worked 15 hours every day to make Russia stronger and bigger.
Wow.
Under her reign, Russia's borders expanded. The Russian army claimed that land of Alaska north of Canada, took land away from the Turks and the Mongols, and seized part of Poland. Like Peter the Great, Catherine liked many of the ideas of the West. She admired the French philosopher Voltaire.
Voltaire.
Okay.
He's a bad guy.
Who wrote about equality and liberty, and wrote him many letters. She brought many Western customs to Russia. She rewrote confusing ancient laws so that her people would have more rights. She told her ministers of state that no one could be tortured for information. She opened new schools and started the first college for Russian women. She even made a woman the director of Russian Academy of Science.
Wow, that is very marvelous in those days, right?
Mm-hmm. Catherine opened new hospitals and brought in doctors from the West to improve the health of the Russian people. Catherine's people began calling her Catherine the Great.
I think she wrote about 40-year list around that time. I don't quite remember. It's a long time. Yeah. Mm.
But although Catherine liked to think of herself as a modern, enlightened empress,
Mm-hmm.
she didn't want the people of Russia to have the same rights as citizens.
The reason enlightened used here is because Voltaire is almost the main character started the movement called the Enlightenment movement, okay? Movement called the Enlightenment. Enlightenment is the leading thoughts of philosophy that lead to American Revolution. So it's all tied together. So anyway, enlightened. It's because he called himself enlightened. So.
Or France. For Catherine, equality meant that all Russians had to obey the same laws, but the empress still got to make those laws, and she didn't have to ask anyone's permission.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine kept a close eye on her court during the French Revolution, looking for signs that the French infection had spread to Russia. She didn't hesitate to get rid of anyone she thought might be a threat to her power. One French philosopher invited to visit Catherine's court refused with the words, "I am not anxious to go to a country where people are apt to die so suddenly." By the end of Catherine's reign, Russia was a strong, wealthy empire, but Catherine had given her noblemen even more power over the peasants and serfs who lived on their land. And these poor Russians had grown hungrier and more ragged than related to Russia.
Now, who knows serfs what it means?
I don't.
That's gonna be tested.
Serfs.
Serfs is, yeah, seriously strange name, right? So,
Oh, yeah, that's a name.
serf
Peasants
is
and
a
serfs?
kind of a people, class
Oh.
of people. Yeah.
Kind of the end of the. I don't know what you would call it.
Hindu people. Yeah.
There's like a sect of like there's sectors of people. I don't know what it's called. Like it's like kind of like a not a food chain, just something like that. Like end
It
of
is
the
a food chain. It's the lowest food chain
Yeah, end
in
of the
social
food chain.
standing.
Yeah.
They were the people who don't own land. Okay, they have work for others to to work for people who own land.
A
So,
tenant farmer gone to
yeah,
pot.
there you go.
A serf provided
Namely,
his
it's
own
not.
food.
It's not a specific person. It's a type.
I know
of
it's not a specific person. I'm just saying,
It's
but the
kind
people
of
were
kind of people like that. Yeah. Now,
provided their own food.
review. A beautiful young lady getting married about 15, 16 years old. Got a terrible husband. Childish temper. And got smallpox, almost died. Then turned to be more bad after that. Then
Okay.
unbearable, so this young lady tried. And got ugly mother-in-law. Yeah.
And she rose up and took over.
She took over. Yeah, she's very smart. So, but then she had a huge impact over the Russian history. You can think about it. The territory is huge enlarged. She even had Alaska. That's a huge piece of land.
Wait, she had
So
Alaska?
Russia?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Alaska? That's
she
two
took a
very
part of
large-
Poland. That's a lot of land there. Mongolia, south. So she is north, west, east, and south. Russians the north is sea. Right?
Was Alaska on top of Canada or Russia?
So, on top of Canada, please. Different continent. From
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was Canada. I just didn't know since we were talking about Russia. Maybe I got confused.
Yeah.
Where's
Yeah.
Alaska's? Where would it be?
It's north of
Not
us.
near there.
So up that way,
Alaska north of
So
us.
it's-
Cross
like from
Canada.
Russia, this area. Where would it be?
Huh?
Up.
No, it's going to be this
Oh,
direction.
this way?
Yeah.
That's Atlanta. Huh?
Atlanta.
Oh, that's a curious question. Yeah, this is the other direction.
This way.
Yeah, the other. No, the other direction.
So this way.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So, sorry.
That's-
Yeah, true. In Canada, near Canada, America and Europe in between is Atlantic Ocean, right? So on the other side is Pacific Ocean.
There's Russia.
So, huh?
So Russia is here.
Yeah,
So yeah, it would be this way
yeah.
because it's all the way up here. Yeah. Okay.
It's a biggest nation in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, land-wise.
Very big.
Very big. Bigger than
What is Russia's
US.
landscape like? Is there a lot of different kind of biomes?
different one. They have different landscapes. Siberia is the worst place to go.
Yeah.
Siberia, that's where
Desert.
all the cold comes to us.
Cold.
From Siberia.
I thought Siberia was desert.
It is desert, but it's because it's so large, a desert place, so therefore the cold wind, they call the Siberian cold wind, cold front.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's cold. Now you guys like the lesson? Any comments? Okay. And you like it?
Yeah. I
So? Okay. These people don't know how to study history, so. Yeah. Okay. Benji, why don't you wrap it up with prayer? So we thank the Lord bringing you here. We ever want to be a blessing to you, and the Lord continue to use this time to bless you. Now in the afternoon, we're going to have a poem session. I know that you want to participate, you're welcome. in the future, writing poems, essays, you don't have to. Those are optional. But you want to sit in to read a poem together with us, you're welcome to do that as well. So,
Awesome.
yeah, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Lord, for this wonderful day. Thank you for blessing us and always watching over us. I pray that you would just help us to be open and listening for your voice. I thank you that we get to gather today. Thank you for Emmanuel and that he is willing to help us and to teach us new things. I thank you for me being able to come now every Monday. I pray that you would just help it to be a blessing to everyone and that we would just have great times. In your precious name I pray.
Thank you, guys. Now, love you. What are we gonna eat for lunch, man?